What's up, dude? Welcome back to Why Not Ride. Today we're going to be installing a full titanium Akrapovic exhaust. So, some things to know. This is for the BMW S1000rr. Firstly, why doesn't it just come with this badass exhaust? Well, there's two reasons. There are emission laws all over the world to protect the ozone layer, so you can't just slap on an exhaust that's not going to filter out all those fumes and toxins coming out of your bike. So that's why I can't just come with this badass exhaust. Again, this is a full titanium Akrapovic Racing Exhaust. Technically speaking, this is race use only, but I am going to put it on my street bike. And decibels, that is how loud the actual exhaust is. All over the US, the laws are different, but there really are laws for it coming out of the factory that says it can only be so loud. This is obviously incredibly loud. This is a racing exhaust. Again, illegal on pretty much every front that you put it on, but they still sell them. You can still put it on your bike. You're just rolling the dice if a cop actually wants to come after you. So make sure you clean all of your fingertips off of your Akrapovic exhaust, because if you get that oily residue on there, you leave a fingerprint and you heat this thing up the first time that you put it on, it can leave like a burnt in image, not of your fingerprint, but just a burned image of the oil, because you're burning the oil and it's directly causing that chemical reaction on your titanium headers, and you don't want that. So make sure you wear gloves. It's a pretty simple process. Even though it's a BMW, exhausts are pretty cut and dry. I will be leaving all my O2 sensors on. Let's get started. I'm excited. 2022 BMW S1000rr full titanium Akrapovic Racing Exhaust install. Let's do it. All right, there's two things that are incredibly important, especially when working on a BMW if you're used to working on Japanese. Okay, so for starters, it's not a hex, they're gonna be T27, T30, I don't know what these bolts are gonna be, we'll see. Now, you're taking off all of the stuff that you can take off easily. I'm taking off the side fairings, the panels, the belly pan, whatever you wanna call it. I'm taking it all off. You want a good, clean, working environment. I'm gonna show you what my workstation looks like. It's organized. I'm not a mechanic, but I can work on a bike because I've read the directions, they're very thorough, and I set up a good, clean, working environment, okay? Take off the side panels, the side fairings, the belly pan. Then we're gonna see what the access looks like to get to those nuts on the flanges on the top of those headers. I'm gonna show you guys everything. Don't worry about it. BMWs can be sticky. I've done this so many times, but never to a European bike. Let's dive in. You can come with me. I hope this helps. All right, using a T20, we got all these bolts out. So, we got one left. Pretty easy. I took them all off. It looks like comes right out of here. There's another one up on the inside. I'm gonna grab it. Bolts all around here, a couple on the inside. Take it off. Then I took off the O2 sensor on this side. Now I'm gonna get that fat ass silencer off. What I'm gonna do is there is a bolt on this clamp right here, and then there's a bolt here, and then we're gonna yank that thing off. All right, we got the silencer off. Now the next couple things we have to do, we already got this O2 sensor off. There's probably 3 more sensors, I believe. 2 more in here and another one on the other side, and the servo motor. So let's take a deep dive in the servo motor. Looking like this is gonna be an 8mm hex right here. Take it off, take off this little cover. We're gonna remove the servo, the actual actuator here on the exhaust. We're gonna take that off. We're gonna trace these wires back up in here, find the servo motor, which it looks like, we'll find out where it is. All right, so we got an 8mm up in here. We're gonna get off. All right, so I removed this from the servo. Now I'm gonna grab a 10mm. I'm gonna get those servo wires, the ones that are going up to the actual servo motor, and I'm going to remove them. All right, so Alright, so I got the servo motor turned upside down, and what we have to do is release this clip. Right, so this wire right here, I'm going to grab it so you can see. I'm going to pull it out. If you can see this right here, that is where the servo buddy is going to plug into. Right, so I don't have my servo buddy yet. It's going to throw an error code for the servo motor, but that's where it is right there. Alright, I got the servo motor off. You really have to manhandle this thing. You got to jam it up under here, and because of these big, look like damn anchors, these little hex things, it's hard to get them out. But anyway, so you unhook it down here, unhook these wires, You unhook the servo motor up in here. Then you give the wire some slack so you can flip this thing upside down. So it'll be this way. That is where the actual servo motor, the electronics, that's where it plugs into the servo motor, which is where you're gonna plug in your servo buddy. Then you finagle it out and then you rip this thing off, right? That's if you're doing a full exhaust. If you're doing a slip-on on a BMW, you don't have to do it. Full exhaust, you do. Here's a servo motor. We don't need this. All right, I'm on the other side of the bike. So we're gonna take off all these side fairings. We're gonna take off this belly pan. This is important to note. Okay, so you might get all gung-ho happy and then just take off all the bolts on the bottom, which is holding the entire exhaust. And the heaviest part, which is the resonator down here, this big fat thing, is actually connected to the bike. It's basically holding the whole exhaust on the bike. Okay, so when you come up here and you start taking the nuts off your flanges on the headers up here, you wanna make sure, super important, you wanna leave one fat ass bolt holding this resonator onto the frame of the bike, and then you're gonna take off all those nuts on the flanges. It's just gonna make your life a whole lot easier. You're gonna take all of those nuts off the headers, and then the only thing left you're gonna have to do, it's gonna be holding up the whole exhaust, is that one bolt on the bottom here. You take that off, and the whole exhaust just pops right off. Okay, so I'm gonna show you which ones I'm gonna leave on and which ones I'm actually going to take off. So let's do it. It's not easy to get up in there. In a perfect world, take off the radiator. I'm gonna try to do it without taking off the radiator. Your life would be so much easier if you did, but like that's gonna add like another 2 hours of work, especially if you have to undo the hoses and then you're gonna have to replenish all that jazz. So let's see what we can do. You have to use like these special, you can't just use a regular hex. I don't know what this is called. Maybe it'll tell me. I don't know. It's like that crazy star looking thing. This is a 10. So let's break the torque on the first one. You guys can watch. Not that crazy to break the torque, and as soon as you break the torque, you're home free, right? So as soon as you break the torque, you're good to go. I don't know how easy it's gonna be to access all these other ones. Obviously the first two, super easy. This is gonna be death. That's what it looks like up under there, right? So we got 2 of these on each header, right? So what I did was I went in there and I undid them. I just broke the torque on all of them. You can see they're all the way through there. Now, I use this for every one except 2, I think. I think I got them all in there. And then the other 1 or 2 that I had to use, all I did was I just grabbed a wrench and I just shoved it up in there, because again, you have to have that crazy ass like star pattern thing to get in there. So I'm gonna get all those off, and then we got 2 bolts down here, and then we're good to go. So let's get those off of there. All right, so I broke the torque on all of them, but as you can see, I got like 2 more on the other side, but I broke the torque and then just did the rest by hand. So. All right, 2 things you have to do down here. There's this wire that runs in between 2 of these headers. I believe it is to protect the headers from the oil filter, I think. But anyway, it's just a little star. You take it off and pull it out. It's like one of those long wires. It's a weird looking thing. And then we got to get up in here and take these bolts off. Other than that, we're pretty much ready to go. Make sure you loosen the wires from these O2 sensors or carbon monoxide sensor. I don't freaking know what they are. Anyway, just make sure that you loosen the wires up in here so when the headers fall, because they're gonna fall, or they're gonna come down pretty hard. This exhaust is super heavy, right? You just don't want it yanking on those wires. So let it fall, and let's do this. I'll show you guys. All right, this thing right here, that up in there. If we can shoot past that. Okay, that's what we had to take off. Now it's a super weird angle. I am not advocating for this, but I broke the torque with a 4mm Allen wrench, okay? That's what I did. I'm not advocating for it. I'm just telling you what I did. That's how I did it, okay? So if you want to figure out a different way, the angle's super weird. I used an Allen key, 4mm to break it. That thing up in there. That's how I did it. Not advocating, but that's what I did. All right, and then I'm going to undo this with my hand. I'm just going to let it fall, right? And it pops right out, or at least it should. Get out of there. This. I think I'm just gonna leave it off. Screw that thing. All right, so I am on the clutch side. So this is like the same type of thing, but if we see that bolt straight through, let me focus on it. No, not that one, that. Okay, so if we undo that, I think it'll all fall, and that's a lot easier than taking out that bolt. So let's take out that one back there and see if it falls. All right, so I was right. You can see that right here. This bolt was in on the other side, right? So what we did was we just unscrewed it, and you kind of gotta finagle it out the other side because that one pin is in the way. Once you pull it, the whole thing falls. So again, leave this on as you take off the nuts on your flanges. This is the last thing that you should take off and your exhaust will fall. Again, this is what's connecting the resonator to the frame. All right. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm putting the flanges on where they should be. They can only fit one way. So I'm just gonna make sure to get them on there correct. All right, so what I'm doing is I'm taking these one by one and just finagling them on, making sure that all the flanges are on, and now I'm just hand tightening them all to hold the headers up. I'll do that all the way across. All right, as you can see up in here, I have all the flanges. They're all hand tightened. All right, so I put the first spring on, but I realized I'm definitely going to want to tighten all these on the flanges before I put the springs on, so I'll do that secondly. All right, so I've decided if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna have to take off the radiator, and I'm just gonna have to wrap my head around that. So I'm going to drain my coolant right now. BRB. All right, it's day 2. You can see I'm wearing different clothes. I'm gonna get this radiator off. It's gonna give me the perfect working environment to get those springs on the headers. So I'm just gonna do it. It's the right thing to do, so I'm gonna take it off. Literally completely off and out of the way. So that is what I did. I just took it off. Lickety split, take the radiator off. I know it's a bitch. I actually had to cut it. Again, I don't advocate for that, but whatever. We're back, the springs are going on. I feel so much better about this project. All right, so as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got the last one on the other side. So what I use is I use this little pull right here. And what I would do is I'd put them in there, and then I would grab them and pull them down. Makes your life a lot easier. Take the radiator off, 110%, take the radiator off. All right, I got the radiator reinstalled. I just gotta add more coolant, make sure that there's no bubbles or running a bit. Other than that, I got the headers on, all the springs on. We're now back to square one. The next thing I have to do is add the silencer, the compressor. I installed the O2 sensors back in, the wideband and whatever the rear ones are called. So I am going to show you exactly what I'm going to do here. You have to use a specialty little piece. I'm keeping the foot pegs because I ride with people on my bike, mainly girls, mainly one girl. And I'm going to hook this on so we can actually put the silencer on without losing the foot pegs, rather than using the carbon fiber Akrapovic bracket. Let's do it. See if it's going to fit. It's going to be right around here, and yeah, it's going to fit perfectly, just like that. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. We're going to be putting on the silencer, and this thing looks great. I'm super excited. All right, so as you can see, I got this bolt in, holding this on. These are still perfect. This is on perfect. I'm just going to tighten a bunch of stuff, tuck some wires, and then we're pretty much done. So again, the takeaways: take the radiator off for sure. Everything else I showed you guys. So I'm going to tuck these wires and then put the fairings back on.